Good morning. It is Tuesday, October the 27th, and this is The Drill. Thank you. The prayer of the day comes from dailyscripture.net. Lord Jesus, you grant me freedom to those who seek you. Give me freedom to walk in your way of love and to praise and worship you always. Show me how I can bring your mercy and healing love to those in need around me. Amen. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. Who is the true conservative? He's the person that has the courage of his convictions and is confident in what he knows. He is the person that understands that culture trumps politics. He's not selfish, but he minds his own business. He curbs his curiosity and acts like an adult. He's patriotic and uses common sense. He's judgmental and moralizes. He refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He's open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He's consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He is a normal American, and he's better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. And you have to know that being a true conservative is best, or you are wasting your time. So what happens after Donald Trump? In another 4 years, I'm assuming that Donald Trump is going to get reelected. By the evidence of my senses and the use of my mind, it looks to me that Donald Trump is going to win and win handily. There's a lot of politicians you're going to hear that are going to try and make it sound like it's a close race. They're doing that so that they can get more money. They want more funds. They want to be able to do more fundraising and get more donations. And they're afraid that if they admit the truth that Donald Trump is leading and actually running away with this, that nobody will bother to donate money. So when you hear anybody talking about how, this is a close race, you're being manipulated. The only question is, to what ends? So, but what happens after Donald Trump is gone? What do we do then? Who's the next Donald Trump? Who is it that we're going to rely on to save our country from the evil left? What should happen is it should be us, you and me. You and I are going to be shaping the culture of this country. Because remember, it is American culture that created Donald Trump, an American culture of about 50 years ago or so. And he's, in his 70s. So actually, you could say American culture of, say, 70 years ago. But again, who's going to be next? Aren't we going to get to the point where we're going to run out of people that have solid values, solid American values? And what happens then? So that is why it is up to you and I to shape American culture so that we are always having our choice of Donald Trump's, and on the Democrat side, our choice of John Kennedy's, probably one of the best candidates for office in my lifetime. Because that's the only Democrat I can recommend. The other one was a politician in, I believe it was Georgia, and now I'm forgetting his name, but there's only two of them. But John F. Kennedy is the one I use as a reference point. And so that's what this podcast is all about, is getting people to understand how culture shapes politics. It's not the other way around. You'll hear other pundits talk about how politics is shaping our society. It isn't. It's not as simple as simply going and voting in all the conservatives you can muster. You have to have a culture that supports them. Otherwise, once they get into office, they're going to get cold feet, and they're not going to promote the kind of policies that we're looking for. Change the culture, and our politics will take care of itself. So my podcast is short. It's approximately 5 to 20 minutes long because it's easier to download and listen to that way. And the biggest socio-political influences in my life are my parents, my teachers, Sir Francis Bacon, John Locke, Sir Isaac Newton, St. Thomas Aquinas, Ayn Rand, and Dr. Mortimer Adler. My podcast is made available through Spreaker and can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. So today on the show, it's going to be Where Do We Stand? Conservative vocabulary, how to win, good news, what to bring back, conservative aphorisms, how to think about defiance, and socialist vocabulary. All that when I come back. Thank you very much. An added bonus feature, the left-wing jerk of the day. And the left-wing jerk of the day is Senator Chuck Schumer, who said that the confirmation of Justice Amy Barrett was a, quote, dark day, unquote, in the history of the Senate. Well, suck on it, Senator. The biggest problem with the news besides undeclared bias, because neutrality is dead. There's no such thing as neutral. Okay, so they should be declaring their biases. But the biggest problem is the lack of continuity. And so I decided to take the biggest issues facing the country and report on them daily until a story is complete. Hence, where do we stand? So there are 7 days until the election. Judge Barrett's nomination was confirmed yesterday by the entire Senate, and she is now Justice Barrett. No news on the monster that has been arraigned for shooting 2 Los Angeles sheriff's deputies. George Soros still isn't dead yet. No law enforcement union has yet been decertified, and no laws shielding officers from prosecution have yet been repealed. I want to make a quick comment about George Soros. People might think it's rather morbid of me to, and it sounds like I'm wishing him to be dead, and I am. That's not a very Christian thing to do, but that's just the way it is. George Soros, to me, is the modern equivalent of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union, which is the dissolution of the Soviet Union was the biggest, most significant event of my lifetime, and I think probably in the history of the world up until that particular point, because the dissolution of the Soviet Union didn't just mean that the breakup of the Soviet Union into its constituent parts. It was a peace windfall for the entire planet. It was amazing. As soon as the Soviet Union disappeared, wars all over the planet disappeared. When I was growing up, there were civil wars everywhere in Africa and Central America. You had the Irish Republican Army that was out killing as many English people as they could, bombing them, etc. And as soon as the Soviet Union disappeared, every one of those things, those wars and terrorist actions came to a halt. There used to be terrorist bands in Europe. The Baader-Meinhof gang in Germany. There was at least 2 German terrorist cells, and German born and grown. There was a terrorist cell in Greece that was on the march. Every one of those disappeared after the Soviet Union expired, because the Soviet Union was funding them. They were getting all their money for their activities from the Soviet Union, and it was stunning to realize how much of an influence the Soviet Union had on world peace or lack thereof. And so the same thing that's going on today in our society with the lack of peace, all of the nastiness that's going on, burning and looting and all that, I put on George Soros. He's a billionaire socialist, and I predict that when he passes away, the vast majority of all these violent protests will simply disappear. So the deader the better as far as George Soros is concerned, the sooner the better. For everybody, for the entire planet. No law enforcement union has yet been decertified, and no laws shielding officers from prosecution have yet been repealed. The so-called Patriot Act is still the law of the land. New York Times v. Sullivan continues to encourage news people to be super citizens who can use unnamed sources to slander and defame people at will without fear of consequences. Where's the expose on the Washington Press Corps? Where's nonprofit news? Jill Biden is still the vilest woman in America for encouraging her feeble husband's campaign to continue. The communist flu continues, but the number of new cases is dropping. Blue Cross and Kaiser Permanente continue to collect our sacrifices. We're basically shielding them from the consequences of their actions. Shame on us. Governor Newsom has enacted a racist scheme to keep Californians locked down indefinitely. The president has courageously decided to suspend negotiations on the communist flu relief bill until after the election. Something I want to say about that real quick is that the politicians have a lot of balls, to put it bluntly. I get messages from them. I get emails from them. I'm amazed I haven't gotten phone calls from these politicians asking for donations. These people have these stones to ask me for a donation. They hold up COVID-19 relief or communist flu relief. They hold up the second stimulus check, okay? And then come to me and say, oh, don't forget to donate to my campaign. And I always send them the same message. I say, when I get my stimulus check, you get your donation. And that's what you should do too. So when I come back, conservative vocabulary. Thank you very much. There's more to being a true conservative than how you vote. There's also about how you think, how you act, and how you speak. Hence, conservative vocabulary. Words like no. You don't hear that. The left never wants to say no. They always like to say yes. Go back. Acceptance. Mind your own business. Right, wrong, good, bad, evil. Reality. Certainty, morality, beauty, and polity. These are terms that the left doesn't want us to use because they're realistic. The quote of the day, quote, "The hardest thing in the world to know is the income tax," unquote, said by Albert Einstein. Every other talk show on the radio spends a lot of its time grinding its audience with negatives and bad news because most of the so-called conservative talk show hosts are not really conservative. What they are is reactionary. They get up in the morning and they don't know what they're going to be talking about until they've looked at the New York Times. And that's no good. So I want to make sure that I include good news. And the good news today is Justice Amy Barrett. And President Trump has solidified another peace treaty. This is between Sudan and Israel. Ha ha. To John Kerry, who said that this was impossible, that there was not going to be any peace in the Middle East without the participation of the Palestinians. President Trump was nominated 3 times for a Nobel Peace Prize. Ha ha. Another thumb in the eye of the left. Don't believe the polls or what you're hearing from politicians and Sean Hannity about how this is really, really a close race. Use the evidence of your senses and the use of your mind to figure it out for yourself, that Donald Trump is winning and winning handily. Let's see. Like I said, most of the polls anyways are not used for to reflect reality. They're used to try to shape reality, to project. So the only relevant statistic is incumbents win re-election 85% of the time, and those that run unopposed win 100% of the time, because technically, the way Mr. Biden is performing, technically you could say that President Trump is running unopposed. The judicial picks are beginning to have an effect, because the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, of all things, has struck down a California law banning high-capacity magazines as being in violation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals was always a reliable buttress for the left. If the left passed some kind of wacky law, they could always count on the Ninth Circuit Court to uphold it. And now they have gone ahead and struck it down. Good news. Let's see. The left has resistance, but we have persistence. Attorney General Barr and Lindsey Graham are conducting their investigation into the doings, the dirty doings of former FBI Director Comey and his henchmen. One of the other things I want to say is that I realized the other day that the president had released all this other information or proof or evidence surrounding Comey and this whole conspiracy. And this was information that he's had for months. And he's been taught, people have been asking, when are you going to release? When are you going to release? Soon, soon, soon. But he releases it now. Why? What's the month? October. October, surprise! Okay, so unfortunately, this is one of the times when President Trump has succumbed to, for lack of a better term, the evil influences that surround him and acted like a politician. He should have released this information months ago. But I'm sure people like the Senate Majority Leader convinced him to wait until October to use it to maximum effect. Shame on the president for not resisting that temptation. So, the mayor of Los Angeles and the LAPD show respect for property rights and the rule of law for once by announcing dozens of arrests and ongoing pursuit of suspects from summer rioting. The Michigan Attorney General announced last week that she'll no longer enforce the governor's executive orders by criminal prosecution. So, thumb in the eye to Governor Whitmer, ha, ha, ha. The state of Florida has the courage to lift all coronavirus restrictions, and businesses and schools are reopening. Good for the state of Florida, and they should be a role model for the rest of the nation. Grocery store shelves are full again. We're still not getting the Lysol wipes, that for disinfecting surfaces and whatnot. But I understand that's in part because the production of those wipes, the priority is hospitals and clinics and et cetera. So, but hopefully soon we'll get those. But everything else is coming back to the shelves. We've got toilet paper and paper towels and all that. And this signals a return to normal. That's what we're all looking for, right? When do we get to go back to normal? And so we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're going back to normal. Real normal, not new normal, not atheist normal, not anarchist normal, but real normal. Nothing can stop Rush Limbaugh. He continues. Lately, things kind of took a little bit of a turn for the worse, but he continues. He sounds damn good on the radio, and I wish him the best. And the Amazon stock is up. Always a good bellwether. You want to really know how things are going, check Amazon stock, because very often it's going the opposite direction. Things are going down the toilet, and Amazon is up. Now, I don't mean Amazon stock is up day to day. Actually, it took a dive yesterday. The past couple of days, it's gone down. But overall, I think since January, it's up like 60%. So, like I said, a good bellwether. You want to really know what's going on with the economy, look at Amazon stock. How can a true conservative win? Okay, I used to hear people call Rush Limbaugh and say, well, what do you want us to do? And that's what got me started on this podcast. You can win by not being neutral. The cult of neutrality is dead. Bury it. Okay, if you're so busy pretending that you're neutral, then when are you going to find the time to promote conservatism? Think about it. Next up, bring back. Thank you very much. As conservatives, we naturally make the presumption for the status quo and change only when there's an obvious or prima facie case for change. And actually, I should say, all normal people do that. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I need to do things differently today. You do what you normally do. The alarm goes off and you do what you normally do. If you hit the snooze bar, usually you hit the snooze bar. If you get up, you get up. And the only time when things change is when there's an obvious case for change. You have an appointment or something like that, you might get up earlier. If it's the weekend, you get up later, that kind of thing. So, but there's a lot of changes that have been made in our society that have been made gratuitously. A case in point is the legalization of the recreational use of marijuana. There's no good reason for that. None. We were bullied and intimidated into going along with that, at least in California. There's 8 states, I think, that have legalized it. And it doesn't end there. Now you have Denver, Colorado, which is decriminalized. the use of psilocybin, which is also known by its street name, magic mushrooms. So what's next? LSD. We're going to do heroin eventually. So again, and they're going to use the same techniques. They're going to try, the left, to bully us into going along with these things, and we have to resist that. But the following is a list of ideas, concepts, abstractions that shouldn't have been changed, and they should be brought back. Bring back property rights. Anytime you hear somebody talking about the environment, what they're trying to do is obliterate the concept of property rights. And you need to remind them there is no such thing as the environment. There's only property, public property and private property. The pre-1970 filibuster. The filibuster we have today is not the filibuster that used to have in the Senate. The way it used to work in the Senate was that if you were going to filibuster, you had to remain on the floor. Okay, so your Senator Joe Blow, if you want to understand how it really used to work, one of the good movies to watch is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Because Mr. Smith becomes a senator, he goes to Washington, and he conducts a filibuster. And that's the way you had to be on the floor. And they changed it in 1970, so a senator doesn't have to be on the floor. He just gives notice that I'm filibustering. And the other thing that changed was that if somebody decided to filibuster, all Senate business came to a halt. Nothing got done until this filibuster was resolved. Okay, so that means this person could go on for hours and hours and hours, but eventually you knew that they either he's going to be successful in changing people's minds, but you knew there was going to be a vote at some point, because you can't hold up a Senate business forever. So that made the filibuster a good tool. The way it's changed to now, where you can just mail it in, so to speak, and while the filibuster is continuing, other Senate business can proceed, then it basically becomes just nothing more than a tool to kill bills. And it's another tool for minority rule. So let's see, outlaws. Bring outlaws. Used to be that if you were defiant of the law, persistently defiant, a judge could declare you an outlaw, meaning you no longer get the protection of the law. So if you're out burglarizing people and you come home and you find your house has been burglarized, guess what? Don't bother to call 911. If somebody holds you up on the way home, don't bother to call 911. Okay? If somebody shoots you dead, oh well. Let me see. Bring back that outlaw stuff. It's great for terrorism. You're going to be a terrorist? Fine, you're an outlaw. Anybody who sees you on the street can gun you down or rob you or whatever, because you don't have the protection of the law. Bring back single-income households. Integration as opposed to diversity. Parenting, and along with it, corporal punishment. The primacy of existence, certainty of knowledge, and universal rights and wrongs. Bring back principled behavior, masculinity and femininity. Adam 12, John F. Kennedy, the gold standard, pre-HMO medical care, non-profit news, civil service, the term stupid question. One of the reasons that our presidents are beleaguered by the Washington Press Corps is that it is today, and they never used to be, was because of getting rid of the term stupid question. Okay? Because most of the questions that are being asked by the Washington Press Corps are in fact stupid questions. And the president should be able to say, that's a stupid question and I'm not going to answer it. Bring back arguments and fights, the cultural influence of the church and Boy Scouts. Bring back the social influence of social organizations such as the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. Bring back bowling. Bring back SMART. One of the things that the left has done is subvert our language and our concepts and ideas. Smart used to be a good thing when I was growing up, very early in my life. You wanted to be smart. You wanted to be the smartest kid in the class. Now, today, smart is looked down on. Culturally, it is frowned upon. You're referred to as a nerd, etc., and treated with contempt and disrespect, and that needs to change. Be of good cheer. The universe is benevolent, and success is to be expected. Therefore, the left has no authority, no power and they can't win. Conservative aphorisms. These are all things that I think would make great bumper stickers. Why? You want to drive a lefty crazy? Ask them why. How about single payer? Why? Who asked you? The lefties love to get in everybody's business. They like to take the initiative. And so when they come up and say, hey, here's a great idea, ask them, who asked you? Uber and Lyft. Instead of creating a better taxi company, they decided to revolutionize the taxi industry. Who asked you? Let's see. Who is we? Or another one is, do you have a mouse in your pocket? Because they love to say that. What do we do about this? What do we do about that? Collective problems develop collective solutions. Are you sure? Okay, they claim that there's no such thing as certainty of knowledge, but they'll make statements. President Trump is a criminal and he should be in prison. And one of the best responses to that, besides 4 more years, is, are you sure? Anytime they make a statement, you can ask a question, and usually you'll win. How do you know? That's the follow-up. If you say, are you sure? And they happen to say, well, yes. How do you know? How do you know? And most of the time, you're going to stump them right there. They'll just give you a dirty look. No, you do not understand. No, you are not listening. You're right. I don't care. Let me see. You're not a leader or a change agent, because that's what they think they are. Leaders and change agents. Who died and left you in charge? And my personal favorite, get off of my lawn. Next up, how did we get here? Thank you very much. I saw a post on Twitter that depicted the reaction of parents at a Little League game to the announcement that the national anthem would not be played. The audience simply defied the announcement, stood and sang the national anthem themselves. That is the way to be defiant as a conservative. If you're going to try to violate my constitutional rights to free speech, I will defy you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Call the police. I'll sing anyway. If the police give me a ticket, I'll sing while they're writing up the ticket. I'll sing in court. I'll sing in jail if necessary. Up next, socialist vocabulary. Thank you. Since nobody wears uniforms, how do you identify the socialists in your midst? And it used to be another way to identify the socialists. It used to be as a matter of fact, people did wear sort of uniforms. It was the hippies. And the hippies would wear bell-bottoms and very casual clothing and wear their hair long, and they didn't bathe, and etc. And the people that were the squares, you could tell the difference. You knew who was conservative, you knew who was left just by looking at them. Now everybody wants to be a hippie. Everybody wants to be culturally left, and so it's harder to tell who's who. So the way you can tell who's a socialist is by their vocabulary, which includes such words as stakeholders, Latinx, empower, going forward, mansplaining, politically correct, supportive, and hegemony. Back in a minute. Thank you. Before I get to my conclusion, my daily conclusion, I want to read a tweet from Hugh Hewitt, an arrogant tweet, and I'm going to explain why it's arrogant and how he should have written or composed this tweet. Hugh Hewitt, confirmation of Justice Barrett is triumph of decency, smarts, hard work, family, friends, faith in God. Pray for her, the court, all judges, the country. She will be very, very conscientious in doing justice, loving kindness, walking humbly with her God. Great day for rule of law. Arrogant, arrogant, arrogant. What he should have said was, because he's basically making himself out almost to be God, as though he can predict the future, he knows what's going to happen, and so everything's going to turn out the way he planned just because he says so. That's arrogance. And what he should have said was, I pray that the confirmation of Justice Barrett is a triumph of decency, smarts, hard work, family, friends, faith in God. Please pray for her, the court, all judges in the country. I pray she will be very, very conscientious in doing justice, loving kindness, walking humbly with her God. I hope and pray that this is a great day, and will be a great day for the rule of law. Who is the socialist? He is the man that seeks consensus rather than develop his own opinions. He's subjective, petty, and small, taking everything in life personally. He's outrageous, boring, and rude. He pretends to be a leader and a change agent. He pretends to be your friend. He is sly, cunning, and deceptive. He dresses, acts, and speaks like a slob. He's informal and terminally unique. He's childish and pretends that he knows nothing. He's pragmatic, has no conscience, and pretends that might makes right and that the ends justify the means. He acts randomly and rationalizes his behavior, deterministic, blaming others for his mistakes, skeptical, demanding that others solve his problems. His unreasonableness and irresponsibility make him a bad role model, and a bad father, brother, family member, friend, and just a bad person, period. So if you think you should be friends with a socialist, think again. And on the next episode, where we stand, good news, how to win, and vocabulary. And that concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and always ask yourself, what is real? How do I know? And what should I do about it? And I'm Ron, and that's The Drill.